Hey, what's up everyone? Before we jump into these absolutely wild fan suggestions about the Knicks roster, I just want to ask you for a quick favor that would mean the world to me. If you could just take 1 second right now and hit that like button, it would be incredibly important to me and helps this channel grow so much. I know it seems like a small thing, but those likes genuinely make a huge difference in getting this content out to more Knicks fans who need to stay updated on everything happening with this team. So seriously, just tap that like button real quick. It literally takes 1 second and it helps me out more than you know. I really appreciate each and every one of you for taking the time to do that. Alright, now let's get into some of the craziest Knicks roster suggestions I've ever heard, because this is going to be wild. What's up, everyone? So, I was watching NBA Today on ESPN, and Malika Andrews had this interactive segment where they were reading and responding to fan comments and suggestions about the New York Knicks roster situation after Malcolm Brogdon's retirement. And honestly, some of the names being thrown around had the entire panel absolutely losing their minds. I'm talking about suggestions so wild that you could see the disbelief on their faces, and I just had to break down their reactions because this was genuinely one of the most entertaining segments I've seen in a while. Okay, hold up. Before we get into this absolutely wild Knicks news, I need 2 seconds of your time for something crucial. If you're watching this right now, you're part of this community, and I need you to do one quick thing that helps everyone here. Drop a like on this video. I know you hear this all the time, but I'm being dead serious. Those likes are what separate a video that reaches 500 people versus 5,000 people. More likes means more Knicks fans get the info they need, means this channel grows, means we can keep doing. So if you care about keeping this going, just hit that like button right now. Takes literally 1 tap. Seats. The show started off pretty normal, with Malika reading through viewer comments and suggestions about potential backup point guard options for the Knicks. But then things took an absolutely insane turn when one viewer named Lewis kept mentioning Ben Simmons as a potential target for New York. When Malika read that comment out loud, you could immediately see Kendrick Perkins just put his head in his hands like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Perk was literally saying, "Ain't no way, and looked like he wanted to walk off the set right there. He said Lewis was going to make him real mad if he kept mentioning Ben Simmons, like genuinely upset, and he was trying to stay professional, but you could tell he was struggling. Perk was going off saying, "There's absolutely no way the Knicks should even consider Ben Simmons. Like, not even for a second should that thought cross Leon Rose's mind." He said Lewis was trying to ruin the entire Knicks season by even suggesting getting that man on this team, and he needed to stop it immediately. The funny part was, Perk kept saying the show is broadcast on ESPN, so he can't curse on air. But these fan comments were making him want to curse so badly, and he was really holding back. You could see him taking deep breaths, trying to compose himself because the Ben Simmons suggestion had him that heated. Then another viewer brought up Mohamed Diawara and asked if everyone forgot about him developing in the G League. Malika asked the panel about Diawara's potential and whether he could factor into the Knicks' plans this season. One of the analysts said he definitely hasn't forgotten about Diawara and actually likes what he saw in preseason. Diawara gets to the basket very fast. His strides and athleticism are incredible, and he showed some intriguing flashes. But the consensus was, he's still going to be primarily in the G League this season, getting developmental reps, rather than being in the NBA rotation right away. But then, the Ben Simmons comments kept coming up in the chat, and you could see everyone on the panel getting more and more frustrated. Malika kept reading more comment, mentioning Ben Simmons, and asking why there was so much Ben Simmons chatter happening. Lewis apparently doubled down, saying Simmons will be a Knick, and to deal with it, which had Perk responding, "You deal with it, bro. He's not going to be a Knick. You deal with it. No, he will not. I do not accept this ever." The panel was dying, laughing at how adamant Perk was being about this. Then they moved on to discussing Delon Wright as a potential option. One viewer suggested Wright would have been a solid backup point guard option and asked if he's actually available right now. Malika confirmed that yes, Wright is available as a free agent after the Pacers let him go when they signed another player. Wright actually could be somebody available, and he already has chemistry with the Knicks from last season's playoff run. The panel thought that wasn't a bad suggestion at all. Actually, a pretty good realistic choice. They don't know if the Knicks are going to go that direction since they can likely only keep one additional player, and they're probably going to keep Landry Shamet. But Wright would make sense as a backup option. Another viewer suggested the Knicks should trade for Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans, calling him a dog and a great defender. The analyst responded asking if Alvarado is even available and what would he cost in a trade. New York doesn't want to give up anything significant besides maybe one or two young players, and they don't even really want to give up a young player at all. They just want to create a roster spot without losing assets. So there's a big difference between what fans want and what's actually realistic. Then somehow PJ Tucker's name got brought up as another veteran option, and you could see the panel just shaking their heads like, what are we doing here? What are we talking about? They were getting bombarded with suggestions like Tucker, Ben Simmons, and Victor Oladipo all at once, and it was overwhelming. Malika asked specifically about the Victor Oladipo suggestion since his name keeps coming up. One analyst made a great point about Oladipo, saying everyone saw that one preseason game where he had a lot of points and looked good, but did anyone actually check how many shots he took to get those points? He asked if anyone was curious about Oladipo's shooting efficiency because he's pretty sure Oladipo shot under 40% from the field, so it's not like he was efficient scoring those points. The analyst's take on Victor Oladipo was basically that Oladipo is exactly where he needs to be right now, meaning probably not in the NBA, and that's the reality of the situation. Then Russell Westbrook's name came up with a viewer asking what happened to Westbrook potentially signing with the Knicks. Malika informed everyone that Westbrook actually signed with the Sacramento Kings earlier that day, so he's off the market completely. The panel discussed how the Knicks probably waited too long on Westbrook, but realistically Westbrook was never going to sign with New York anyway, because he wanted a bigger role with more minutes, and he was never going to get that role in New York behind Jalen Brunson. That's another reason Malcolm Brogdon would have been so perfect for the Knicks, because he was perfect for a limited minutes role. Brogdon never had to play 25 or 30 minutes a night. Just 11 to 15 minutes in a specific role would have been perfect. That limited role would have helped with his injury concerns too, since he wouldn't be overworked. But obviously, Brogdon retired, so that's done and they've moved on from discussing it. Then someone in the comments called Ben Simmons Brick Simmons and said he's out there sipping pina coladas instead of playing basketball, and the panel was laughing about why this is even a conversation. One analyst said fans are just trying to make them curse on air by saying all these ridiculous names, because there's absolutely no reason to mention Ben Simmons in relation to the Knicks. Not one single reason whatsoever. They transitioned to discussing the young players on the roster, with one viewer suggesting that Kevin McCullough Jr. is actually better than both Garrison Matthews and Landry Shamet. The analyst completely agreed with that take, saying McCullough's hustle and his ability to do everything on the court is impressive. McCullough can't shoot at an elite level yet, but his aggressiveness, the way he can score in different ways, his ability to defend, play make, and rebound makes him really valuable. Plus, his size at the position is a major asset. The analyst loves Kevin McCullough Jr. and thinks he, along with another young player, have been the most impressive players in preseason among the guys fighting for roster spots. Then, apparently, someone kept spamming the chat about a player who's already signed to another team, and Malika had to address it saying, this player is already signed elsewhere, so there's no point discussing him as a Knicks option. Then, somehow, Kevin Knox's name got brought up as being available, and the entire panel just groaned. One analyst joked that if viewers don't want him to continue the show, they can just say so. They don't have to insult him by suggesting Kevin Knox. He'd rather people just say, end the segment, we don't want to watch anymore, rather than suggest Kevin Knox returning to the Knicks. Malika asked the audience if anyone wants Kevin Knox back and said she'd wait for responses. And obviously nobody raised their hand or responded positively. Alec Burks's name came up with someone suggesting he could return for a third stint with the Knicks. The panel's response was an emphatic no. They don't want any more Alec Burks. They're completely good without him. Then Malika asked a really good question, which was, "Are you comfortable with Tyler Kolek being the backup point guard?" The analyst's response was that he doesn't think Kolek is going to be the clear backup. He thinks that position is going to be shared by multiple players, and Jordan Clarkson is going to see a significant amount of time at point guard. Clarkson is going to play that position extensively, probably way more than people expect. Even before Brogdon retired, the expectation was Clarkson would play some backup point guard minutes. But now, the analyst believes it even more strongly. How much Clarkson plays at point guard specifically is unclear, but the expectation is significant minutes. Deuce McBride will obviously play some point guard too. But here's the twist that got everyone's attention. Mikal Bridges is also going to see some minutes as a point guard or primary ball handler, likely with the second unit, because Bridges and Josh Hart have tremendous chemistry together, and they'll play together frequently. The analyst thinks Mike Brown is going to utilize that pairing, and that Mikal Bridges hasn't been fully unlocked yet, offensively. We've seen what Bridges can do playing aggressively off the ball, but in terms of his on-ball creation and playmaking ability, we haven't really seen that utilized much yet, besides maybe the first preseason game. The prediction is to watch Mikal Bridges closely this season because he can absolutely play on-ball and create, and he's going to be utilized that way with the starters especially, to take pressure off Jalen Brunson. Watch what happens with the bench unit too, because they're going to see a lot more creative playmaking from guys that nobody expected to handle those responsibilities. Depending on matchups, maybe Kolek gets played in certain situations, but Kolek's defense is the major problem preventing him from getting consistent minutes. You can put him in for offensive purposes and his playmaking ability, but on defense, he's going to get pushed around significantly by bigger, stronger guards. That's the same issue with Pakami Dadiet at times on the perimeter. He can't really stand in front of anybody physically yet because he doesn't have that NBA-ready body. He gets pushed around easily. Opponents get easy contact and easy and ones against him. If you're not taking charges and you're just standing there getting pushed backward, you're not really helping the defense at all. They wrapped up the segment by showing the current odds for winning the Atlantic Division. The New York Knicks are the overwhelming favorites to win the division at -230. Then it jumps all the way up to +500 for the Philadelphia 76ers, +650 for the Boston Celtics, +1,300 for the Toronto Raptors, and +25,000 for the Brooklyn Nets, who have virtually no chance. The question fans have to ask themselves now is, at this point, knowing everything we know about the roster situation, do you want to get rid of a young player like Dadiet or Kolek to keep two veterans? Or do you want to keep the team as currently constructed and only add one veteran? Those are really the only choices available. The panel's consensus was, don't make a trade, keep Landry Shamet, let Garrison Matthews go, and call it a day. That's the simple solution that doesn't cost any young assets or future draft capital. But obviously, fans have to make their own choice about what direction they'd prefer the Knicks to go. So that was the full NBA Today segment, responding to all these insane fan suggestions, and honestly, it was hilarious watching the panel react to names like Ben Simmons and Kevin Knox being seriously suggested as Knicks targets. The Ben Simmons stuff especially had everyone losing their minds and struggling to stay professional on air.